Africa, the heat is rising, and this time it's not from the sun. This week, something bold happened, something global, right? Something worldwide. A fire lit not just in Pretoria, but across the soul of the continent. South Africa's ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool, was expelled, yes, declared persona non grata by Washington. And when he landed back in Cape Town, it wasn't shame or silence waiting for him. It was thunder, applause, cheers from the people, high in praise. Because in this era where diplomacy bends to the dollar and empires try to bully African states into submission, so today we're going to react to two moments that say everything about where Africa stands in the global power game. But before we begin, kindly like, comment, subscribe, and I appreciate you for watching the content all the way through. So first, right, let's take a moment, right, and appreciate that Ebrahim Rasool returned home with a hero's welcome. Hands raised, fists clenched, and crowd roaring, "Welcome back." Beautiful, exciting. It was a scene, right? Second, we'll listen to his own words, right? His bold speech unpacking what really happened behind the closed doors, right? What really happened behind closed doors in Washington and why he refused to bow. Because this is no ordinary diplomacy drama we have right here, right? This is about power, pride, and the battle over who controls Africa's alliances and voice on the global stage. Let's dive in, right? No fluff, no filters, just the truth, fire, and the fight for Africa's dignity. Are you ready? Let's watch the first clip. Ebrahim Rasool, the former South African ambassador to the United States, was officially declared persona non grata, right? A diplomatic term that means you're not welcome here anymore, right? Your stay here is over and it's time for you to leave. And why? Why did this happen? Well, it's because he dared to speak, right? Not lies, right? Not insults, but truth, right? Boldly, calmly, and unapologetically, right? He criticized America's internal posture, its selective outrage, its lopsided alliances, and its habits of punishing countries that think for themselves. In his own words, he said that the President of the United States, President Donald Trump, is launching an assault on incumbency. I'll just let you watch this clip of what he said. And just like that, Washington shut the door. They said, "Pack your bags, Mr. Ambassador. It's time to go." But Rasool didn't return in disgrace. He returned like a general from battle. Now, watch the footage and you see in their faces, in their voices, and in the air what they think about the former ambassador. See, the crowd was not passive. They were proud because they saw what this really was. A warning, a message not just to South Africa, but to any African country that dares to say no. Now, let's talk what I call power games. This isn't just about one man. It's about how Africa is treated when it doesn't follow the script. Ebrahim Rasool refused to pretend that South Africa is a puppet state. He refused to apologize for Africa's decision to take the unnamed country to the International Court of Justice over the alleged war crimes in the other country we cannot pronounce, the G1, right? He refused to walk back the ANC's position on land reform and white monopoly capital, something that some US and European groups have labeled genocidal rhetoric, right? Now, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest. America didn't expel Rasool because he lied. They expelled him because he told the truth they couldn't control. That's what makes him dangerous. That is what makes this moment historic. I think historic. Now, let's listen to his speech after he came back and let me know what you think. I think I just got to go. Let me repeat that. Now, let's watch the second clip together. And this one is where Ebrahim Rasool steps off the plane and speaks to the people. Listen closely, not just to what he says, but how he says it, okay? Now, key quote, "We did not succeed in America with the truth about white genocide. We could not win AGOA trade deals because we refuse to let the US pick our friends and our enemies." Let that sink in. Powerful. Woo. Bravo. He's saying we could have had easier trade agreements if we kept quiet about the second country we can name, which is the G1. We could have smoothed things over if we accepted America's veto power over our sovereignty, but we didn't. And for that, he was expelled. But South Africa stood taller, right? Showing the rest of Africa, how it's done. This is the line in the sand. Rasool called for a new diplomacy, not only based on fear, right? Not one based on flattery, but on what he calls the diplomacy of Ubuntu. Now, I love this, right? He says Ubuntu diplomacy is not the art of lying for your country. It's the art of speaking the truth gently. Beautiful. And that is the future, right? That is the future Africa must fight for. Not diplomacy that flatters empires, but diplomacy that centers around humanity. Not relationships that depend on foreign aid and intimidation, but ones that are forged in mutual dignity and truth. Because the era of Africa begging for validation must end. The era of silent submission must be buried. Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool's return wasn't a fall from grace. It was a rising of principle, a signal that South Africa, and by extension Africa, has drawn a line in the sand. No more quiet obedience, no more diplomacy that demands we sell our souls for trade deals. Now the world must face the voice of Africa when it tells the truth with a straight spine. So let me ask you a question. If South Africa can be punished for standing up, who's next? Kenya, Ghana, Algeria, Uganda, DRC? This isn't about Rasool. This is about the cost of African independence. And the world is making it clear, if we don't follow their song, we will be kicked off the stage. That's cool. We like being by ourselves, right? But guess what? We don't need their stage. We've got our own rhythm. And it starts with this. Africa will speak, right? Africa will rise. Africa will not kneel. No longer are we kneeling.